and we're going to get started. All right, everyone, we are recording the session today. So if you have anything you want to review afterwards, you will receive a copy of it to your inbox afterwards, and we will be able to reflect on that as anything pops up. But today, we're really honing in on a very specific topic in Belize. It's going to be the Ambergris Caye real estate market analysis. A lot of the folks I've spoken to, I'm guessing all of you on here are interested in Ambergris Caye for real estate ownership. Perhaps you already own property on the island. You want to know a little bit more about what's going on, and we're going to go through all of that with you today. So a little bit about me. My name is Rachel Jensen. I am the owner and agent at Luna Realty Belize. I moved from New York about 10 years ago to the beautiful island of Ambergris Caye. It really started as a slow move. I was coming down about once or twice a month for about a week or two at a time. I found myself coming down more and more, and then eventually decided to call Ambergris Caye home. And it is where I'm located full time today. I do get back and visit family every now and again, or better yet, they come down and visit me here on the islands, but it is where I call home. I'm also a board member for the Belize National Association of Real Estate, and I'm quite active in a handful of volunteer opportunities and nonprofits here on the island. So if anybody has any questions about expat life or whatnot, feel free to type those into the Q&A section. We'll get through all of the questions at the end. So feel free to type those in as they come to mind. All right, so I have a couple of pop quizzes for you. I'm going to launch it here on the screen. I know a lot of you were on our session last week, and I appreciate that, but I want to just get your memory jogging. Feel free, you should see the poll there on the screen. The question is, how much is the stamp tax, which is the title transfer fee in Belize? 1.75%, 3%, 8%, or 10%. And if you have no idea, it's okay for you to guess too. No wrong answers here. Well, I guess there could be wrong answers, but it's good that we go through it. All right, I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll end the poll. And the correct answer there is 8%. So in Belize, there's what they call a title transfer. That is the fee that is going to transfer the title from the person that you're buying it from to you as the buyer. So that is a flat 8%. So do bear that in mind as you are looking at real estate. Typically that 8% is not included in the real estate price. So you want to make sure that you have that allocated as you are looking at real estate in Belize. And that's not just for Ambergris Caye, that is indeed countrywide. All right, second question here in the pop quiz is going to be, let me launch that. How much is capital gains tax in Belize? How much is capital gains tax in Belize? 0%, 1.75%, 15%, or 25%. I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And looks like a majority of you got that. The good news for anyone who didn't guess this answer is it is 0%. So in Belize, when you sell something and you have capital gains on it, so let's say you're selling your real estate, you bought it for 150,000, you're selling it for 250,000. There's 0% capital gains tax on that $50,000 profit in Belize. Now, you probably will still have some tax obligations in your home country. Talk to your accountant or your attorney about that. But do note that here in Belize, you have 0%, which I think is one of the biggest benefits to owning real estate here in Belize. All righty, there it is, 0%. And then third question, this is the third and final question in the pop quiz section here, is property tax. How much is property tax in Belize? 1% of improved land, 1% of unimproved land, 2% of improved land, or 2% of unimproved land. So I'll give you a moment there. I know it's a little bit tricky, but it is important for you to know, especially as you are looking at ownership of real estate here in Belize. I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And the great answer there for you is that it is 1% on unimproved land. So it doesn't matter what structure is on your property, it doesn't matter what you end up building, it will be 1% of that unimproved land. Also, as you're going through your paperwork and maybe you're buying a condo for $200,000 or $300,000, you'll see that the property tax is not that 1% of whatever it is that you're paying. It is 1% of the unimproved land. So whatever it was valued at prior to that structure going on there. So I think that's another huge benefit for owning real estate here in Belize. All right, we're going to jump into it. So during our time together, we're going to cover a little bit more about Ambergris Caye just generally, and then dig in more specifically to the market on Ambergris Caye. We'll go through the top opportunities right now. There are a handful of listings that I'm going to show you, and then we'll have an open forum for our Q&A. So where exactly is Ambergris Caye? It is the largest key or island off of the coast of Belize. You can see it here on the right-hand side. You're able to get to the island by boat. It's about an hour and a half direct from Belize City if you come by boat. There are two boat lines there that you're able to take. One is San Pedro Belize Express, the other is Caribbean Sprinter. Both take about an hour and a half. You're also able to take an airplane, what we call puddle jumpers. Two airlines here in the country, Maya Tropic Air and then Maya Island Air, and then also Tropic Air. And that takes about 15 minutes to get from Belize City to the island of Ambergris Caye. There are two airports in Belize City, and I do want to mention that one of them is the Belize City at the Belize City International, and then the other is the Belize City Municipal Airport. So when you're coming into the country, and let's say you're flying directly into Belize City and you don't want to leave the airport, you want it to be as smooth and easy for you as possible, what you'll do when you book your Tropic or your Maya Air is you'll book from BZE, that's the code for the airport there, BZE, and then from there you can book directly to SPR, which is San Pedro. So do keep that in mind. Typically, if you're coming out to the island and you're doing a day tour or something along those lines on the mainland, then you'll typically book to TZA, that's the municipal airport. But if you don't want to leave the airport, if you want it to be as seamless as possible, make sure you are booking there at the Belize City International Airport. So we are actually in the Belize district. So that's something to bear in mind too. Some people say, oh, we're in the Ambergris district or in the Caye district, but it is indeed the Belize district that we are a part of. So Ambergris Caye is about 26 miles long, 1 mile wide at its widest point. And typically how we refer to the island and locations is north, town, and south. And anything north of the bridge, and you can see this bridge here, I have it pinpointed here on the map as well. Those little locations are where the bridge is. Typically, once you go over the bridge, then you're north. And so if you look at the map of Ambergris Caye here, you can see that north is actually a pretty big section, but everything was really centered around San Pedro, which is the primary town on the island. So you'll typically hear actually San Pedro and Ambergris Caye used synonymously when people talk about the island, but the actual name of the island is Ambergris Caye, and then San Pedro is the primary town. And San Pedro is really where the development started. It's where the fishing village really started. And then over the years, it started to grow north and south. And actually that bridge about 15 years ago wasn't there. It was a little crank pulley system. So you put your golf cart on or you'd walk on it and then they'd crank you over that little inlet there. And then you'd go over to the north side. But once you cross that bridge, then you're considered north. So again, you can see on the right-hand side there, north is a very big area. And then south is also fairly big as well. But right there in the bottom part of the screen is where San Pedro is and where that bridge is located. So I wanted to mention this to you because sometimes when I'm talking about listings, I'll talk about, oh, it's north or it's over the bridge. And so that gives you a little bit more reference. Now, I tried my best to put pinpoints on these maps at the different listings so you're able to see how far north it is, but just know that that bridge is really the connector between town and the north side. And San Pedro town was really the first town that started on the island. As I mentioned, it was formerly a fishing village, and then divers and other fishermen started to discover it. And over the years, the town has really grown into what it is today. Boca del Rio is one of the popular areas within San Pedro town. It's right before the bridge. And this is an area where you're able to drive there on the beach. On the right-hand side, you can see the sandy road. You're able to drive up on the beach. There are about 25 bars and restaurants in this area. It makes a great pedestrian walkway. So when people are coming into town, sometimes they like to stay in this area if they don't want to rent a golf cart and want to be closer to town. Secret Beach is also an area that I have a lot of folks who are interested in. It is one of probably the most beautiful beaches on Ambergris Caye. Ambergris Caye, because we have the reef directly paralleling us on the west side of the island, we don't necessarily always have great beaches on the west side because we have the reef, we have the seagrass, but on the east side of the island, the east side of the island is where we have the reef, and then the west side of the island is where we have the beautiful beaches like Secret Beach. So I'll show you a map again. Just let me go back here so you can see it. But here we go. Secret Beach is, if you can follow my cursor, this area over here, the west side of the island, and then the east side of the island I mentioned is where we have the reef. So you don't necessarily always have the most beautiful beaches over there. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of stats for you to hold on to and to know. So I mentioned to you that we're about 40 miles from Belize City. Island size is quite small. It's about 26 miles long, but 1 mile wide at its widest point. And do know that this is actually the largest island that we have here out of all of the keys and the atolls in Belize. Population is about 55,000 people. And like I mentioned, San Pedro really is the primary town here on the island, but there are many neighborhoods scattered throughout Ambergris Caye. And you'll hear we talk about them a little bit as we go through some of the listings. So Ambergris Caye really has become popular, I'd say starting in the 70s with the divers and the fishermen, because we do have that reef on the east side. It is just an incredible barrier reef. It's the closest reef largest leaf reef for people who are coming in from North America. So it's really nice and easy for people to access if they do want to dive or fish or fly fish. There's just incredible opportunities out there. We see a lot of people who are coming here to snorkel, and it's also the largest expat and tourism destination in the entire country. And so a lot of times when people are looking to relocate, they want to be around other expats, they want maybe a good variety of restaurants or nightlife or whatnot, then they'll tend to come here to Ambergris Caye. And I'd say Ambergris is also known for the golf carts. Golf carts are our primary mode of transportation, and it's fun. And when you start to own one or when you spend more time here, you'll see that some people decide to paint them a fun color or add a rain jacket to them when it rains. So there are fun ways for you to enhance your vehicle down here. Other people also have what they call mules or Kawasaki's or Polarises to help with some of the roads if they're going back and forth between town and the north and south. There are a few distinct seasons here on the island when it comes to tourism, and write this down. This is important for you to know, especially if you're looking at ownership of real estate from an investment perspective. It's typically high season is considered mid-November through middle of May. Shoulder season is the rest of that May, June, and July, and then low season is August through mid-November. And this is important for you to know because if you are looking at real estate ownership from an investment perspective, but perhaps you want to spend time in your home or your condo, then you probably won't want to be here when we have high season. Peak season is even during the holidays, so Christmas, New Year's, Easter, spring break time. That's when you'll see a majority of your rental revenue coming in. Shoulder season rental revenue is slowing down a little bit, but we do tend to have a lot of the families that are coming to the island. Ambergris Caye is a very family-friendly place, and so you'll tend to see a lot of families coming down June, July when the kids are off of school, and then August through mid-November is typically when it's slow here. It's when a lot of the restaurants will close down for the season and then reopen in time for tourism when it kicks off again. Typically here on the island, it's about 80 to 85 degrees year round, 80% humidity. I'd say December and January are probably the outliers in that. We can see temperatures as low as the low 60s when everyone's all bundled up in their jackets, but typically this is the standard weather that we'll see here. So you can see it's a very, very tropical sort of climate. Now there are a couple pros, and of course there are a couple of cons associated with Ambergris Caye. One of the pros is it's the most developed part of the country, which for people who are looking at investment property, this is a really big advantage. It also has the largest variety of restaurants and businesses because it is the most developed. It also is the island that draws in the most tourism and expats. In addition to that, I'd say it's probably the best location for quick appreciation and rental return because there is already the tourism that's coming here. So if you're looking to own a property today, get rental revenue starting tomorrow, this would be the place that you'd want to do it because there already is that large number of expats and tourists coming in. Cons, so I put there on the West Coast. I don't know why I put the West Coast there, guys, sorry, but it's supposed to be on the East Coast. So you have the seagrass on the East Coast of the island. That is where we do have the reef. We do have some potholy roads, and it does tend to be the most expensive part of Belize. So these are some cons that are associated with Ambergris Caye, and it's good for you to know that too, because I think a lot of times when you're listening to sessions like this or you're reading up on countries, that they paint this picture that, oh, it's so glamorous and whatnot, and it is in its own way, but there also are some negatives or challenges, I would say, to owning an Ambergris Caye. And because we do have that seagrass, if you are somebody who's a little bit more sensitive to the seagrass, I would say go on the west side of the island or perhaps go to the lagoon if you want to have that water view. Also, the roads here, and I say potholy roads, but it kind of is infrastructure generally. Belize as a country is slow to develop in terms of infrastructure. So there was this huge wave of tourism that came in over the last 15 years, I would say. Tourists before that, but really 15 years is when a lot of the mainstream tourists started coming. But the development infrastructure has been slow to follow that. And so while the Belize government certainly has the best of intentions and does want to pave the roads and does want to make a lot of these things possible and better, it's just a very, very slow thing to come. So understand that, it's not going to be paved the whole way, maybe paved in some parts, maybe some potholes, maybe some speed bumps, but just understand that as you're coming here. Also, with it being, the most expensive part of Belize, that has its pros and cons too, right? The pros, it's most expensive because this is where the action is. So if you're looking to get in on the action, you're going to be paying a little bit more for it. But con, because, maybe we have a limited budget and we don't necessarily have or want to be spending the sort of numbers that we'll see on real estate here. So, you can look at it both ways, but did just want to share that with you before we jump in here. So at the end of the day, it's important to understand where it is that you are investing or owning. I think especially from those of you who are looking from the investment market, you really need to know where in the country it is that investors are coming, especially if you want rental revenue sooner rather than later. I shared these in our 101 last week, but wanted to reiterate it again. San Pedro there, you can see this is from 2002 or 2022 rather, up through July. And you can see that the island here has significantly more visitors that are coming here than any other part of the country. In addition to that, you're able to see, so I have there on the right-hand side of the screen from 2019. Sometimes it's nice to see the pre-COVID numbers as well. And it was also by far the largest place that was visited by visitors coming in. So you can see 2022, I'm guessing that these numbers have continued. San Pedro continues to be a top favorite for people. And I think, what we see here in San Pedro is actually quite unique, as we see a lot of repeat visitors, a lot of repeat tourists. So people will come down and they'll absolutely love the time here. It's a very friendly place. So you'll get to know a lot of the bartenders and the tour guides. And it really feels like you're meeting friends, and you are meeting friends overall. And then you're like, what, I'm going to come back next year because I had such a great time. And I'm going to come back the year after and the year after and the year after. And I've met a handful of people that have been coming down 15, 20 years. They come down, 1 year or once or twice every year, but they're coming down because they want to come back to a place where they feel welcome and a place that really feels like home. Eventually, these people do end up buying real estate and have a place that they can go to. But overall, they may not necessarily be living here, but they are coming down from that tourism perspective. So good to understand these numbers, especially if you're coming in from that investor perspective. And then I also do like to mention this for expats. When you're coming to the country, perhaps you do not want to be in an area that is a lot of tourism. One of the drawbacks to that is you may not necessarily have the sort of services that you have in a place where there are a lot of tourists. You may not have as many options when it comes to restaurants or shopping or ease of immigration, for example, if you're coming down on a tourist visa. So you have to bear those things in mind as well. And if anybody wants to go through, there are about 7 or 8 pages of information that the Belize Tourism Board has put out so far. You can just go to the Belize Tourism Board website and then go down to statistics, and you'll see more information there. They typically put out a report every year. They didn't do one last year, and they didn't do one in 2020, but I imagine they'll do one again in 2022 as everything has started to stabilize again. So also, Ambergris Caye is also the part of the country that has the largest number of licensed hotel rooms. And that, of course, makes sense because it also has the largest number of tourists that are coming in. And I put on here the license because in order to operate and be able to accommodate visitors and to have your room or your home in the rental program, you do need to have a licensed Belize Tourism Board license in order to operate trade license. So it is important that you do go through that process if you are looking at an investment property. The other thing I want to mention here is the hotel occupancy. So this is from January to June of 2022. You can see here that occupancy is about 38.9% here on Ambergris Caye. It's a little bit higher in Belize City, I think, because a lot of times in Belize City, people are flying in for a night or two, whether they're trying to catch an airplane or perhaps they have business that they are trying to conduct. So it is actually a little bit higher. And you can see, though, that a majority of that is it says local occupancy. That's what it stands for, local OCC there on the second column. You can see that there's more local occupancy there in Belize City than there is in Ambergris Caye. So a majority of the folks who are coming here are indeed coming to Ambergris Caye, and occupancy is about 40%. And the reason that I share this with you is because as I'm working with different developers and different agents, I hear people talk about occupancy sometimes. And they'll tell you, oh, occupancy of our hotel is 70% or 75%. And while this is the average here, some hotels do better than others. You may find that 70% or 75% occupancy is a bit of a stretch. But people are coming to Ambergris Caye to really snorkel and dive and fish, and Holchan and Shark Royale are 2 of my top favorite places to go when snorkeling. Also, I highly recommend taking the What the Food tour. This is really neat. You go to a handful of local restaurants here on Ambergris Caye, and you get to taste the different local foods and the local drinks and beverages. So it's a really neat experience to have. I'm going to highlight 5 top places that I recommend you take a look at when you come to the country, specifically here in Ambergris Caye. And I'd say one of them is the Fried Jack House. A fried jack is a local dish here. It's typically for breakfast, but you can really have it for any meal. And it's fried dough, and then you can fill the fried dough with anything or put it on top. And so this is one from the Fried Jack House. This is located on Front Street here in Ambergris Caye. You can get a very traditional one where you get some meats and cheeses in it. This one I think was the Mexican one. So you're able to really play around and get what you want. But it's essentially fried dough, and you just put stuff on top of it or inside of it. The other thing I'd recommend doing when you come to Ambergris Caye is renting a golf cart and just go drive up north. Because it is a 26-mile long island, there's a lot to see along the way. Although a lot is really centered around San Pedro, and then the parts of the north and parts of the south, there is a road, although not paved, so a little bumpy, that goes up about 16 miles, and you're able to go up to a place called Tranquility Bay. That's the picture on the right-hand side there. And there's just a really incredible little spot to sit and hang out and swim and barbecue if you want. But a lot of little places, little watering holes along the way too, where you can stop at and grab a cold beverage. The other thing I would recommend is taking a boat to the real secret beaches. So while they have secret beach, it really is not so much of a secret, but there are a lot of little sandbars and coves along the coast of Ambergris Caye on the west side where you don't have any seagrass. You can see there one of the pictures from our boat trip a few months ago, but you can do that and have a real beach barbecue there where the guides will fish for you and be able to cook for you there along the sandbank. Another thing I'd recommend if you're pretty adventurous is taking a ATV ride to Rocky Point. Jungle Water Belize Tours is the one who coordinates this, but you're able to hop on those ATVs, go up the coast, go even further at then Tranquility Bay and end up at a place called Rocky Point. And Rocky Point is actually where the reef hits the land. And you can see the picture there on the right-hand side where most people don't expect to see waves on Ambergris Caye because we have the reef. This is where the reef hits the land. So we do have the waves there, and it just is a really, really beautiful part. And to be driving along the coastal highway, we'll say, of Ambergris Caye on ATVs is a really unique experience. Also here, I recommend visiting the Eco Iguana Corner Foundation or the Iguana Sanctuary. Here you can see some of the largest iguanas that you've probably ever seen in your life. They are definitely well fed there, and they just hang around on the trees, and it's quite a spectacular experience. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to highlight a few of the market conditions here. You don't have to worry about writing all this down. If you want a copy of the presentation or you want a copy of this, I'll send it to you afterwards. But I do want to mention some of these current market conditions here because it is important for you to know that as you're looking at owning real estate here in Belize. One of them is that there really is a minimum number of foreclosures because a lot of the properties here are not leveraged. A lot of the properties do end up being cash deals. So during COVID, during the recession, we really didn't see that much going on in terms of foreclosures because they were owned outright. In addition to that, we saw about a 300% increase in sales volume on the island from 2020 to 2021. I know a lot of people were uncertain in the beginning of 2020 when COVID hit. They weren't sure what was going to happen with the market, but we did end up seeing that it was probably some of the best years, the best couple of years in real estate here on the island, where people just wanted to have a plan B. They wanted security of being able to put some cash in land and let it grow over time, or at least let it sit there and not go down. But we saw an incredible volume increase over the last couple of years. In addition to that, I mentioned to you that it really is a low leverage market. We are seeing about only 15 to 20% of the sellers offer financing. It may even be a little bit less than that. So you're not necessarily finding that 20% down, 80% finance at 4% interest when it comes to financing. A lot of times these sellers will have a balloon payment, or their interest rates will probably be actually in line with what interest rates are now in the States, but that 7-8%. In addition to that, there are more condos right now on the market than single family homes. So single family homes do tend to be priced more expensively than condos. It also makes a lot of sense because it's one single family home or product there on a lot, whereas condos, they can get more economy of scale. But beachfront, if you're looking for a beachfront home, it typically is going to be about $1 million plus. If you're looking within a development, it's about 400,000 plus. And if you're looking far north or south, not on the beach, typically inland a little bit, it will be about $250,000 plus. I do want to mention that these are in US dollars. A lot of times transactions will happen between US dollar and US dollars between foreigners when they're buying real estate. Two Belizeans will conduct business in Belize dollars, but when you see the real estate prices on the island and generally around the country, it is going to be in US. We are currently shifting from that seller's market to the buyer's market. I'd say for the last couple of years, just like in the States, we did see that it really was a seller's market, but we are starting to see that shift a little bit right now. And then we are starting to come into high season in the next month and a half. And so at this point, we're going to start to see more properties come up on the market. And we consider this the prime time to sell because it's when we have a lot of folks who are coming down and visiting Ambergris Caye. And then at the end of the day, as you know, in real estate, it is always about location, 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 location. You may see some deals that are really, really good. And there probably is a reason for that. But I'd say understanding the island is going to be key so that you know whether or not it's going to be a good investment or not. So I'm bringing us back to this slide over here, the map of Ambergris Caye. We have the indicator of where the bridge is located, and then we have north, and north probably goes up, it's probably about 18 miles north of San Pedro. And then the remaining, maybe a little bit more than that, 20 miles north of San Pedro, and then 6-7 miles south. So you can see here that north, you'll start to hear a lot about properties up for sale in north, but that's also because there's a lot more land north than there is south. So understand that, and I'll highlight a couple of the locations as we're going through them. So as you're going through the real estate ownership process, one of the biggest questions that you have to ask yourself is, are you looking for a condo, a single family home, or undeveloped land? All of these have pros and cons to them. Condo, I personally like condos because it's nice that there's somebody looking out for the property if I'm not going to be there. I like that condos tend to maintain their value because they are well looked after, especially if there is an HOA, you're paying money to an HOA to take care of the property for you. Con, if you like space, if you want to have a backyard, obviously a condo is not great for that. Single family home, a big pro is that you have that space, you have that yard. And you do retain your value there quite well. I'd say a con though is if you are somebody who likes to travel or don't plan to be home quite a bit, you do probably need to have a caretaker for your house to make sure it's well looked after. Ambergris Caye, we have a lot of corrosion due to the salty air. So there is a lot more upkeep, I'd say, with a single family home than people realize because of the fact that it doesn't have somebody really taking care of it like an HOA. Undeveloped land, we'll go through those considerations in a little bit, but you have to think about general questions like how long has the property been on the market? Are there any comps and what are the ongoing expenses? The ongoing expenses one is one that I really highly recommend that you ask about when you're buying property, especially a single family home. I've seen some single family home utility bills that are outrageous. They do tend to be larger in size, these single family homes. So it's more expensive to keep the AC on, especially with electricity here on the island. AC is a little bit more expensive than most people realize. So you really need to understand that prior to coming into the market. So first, we're gonna cover undeveloped lots. So here are these considerations that I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with. And this is true not just for Belize or Ambergris Caye, but anywhere in the world, is are there utility hookups? A lot of times we have comfort in knowing that we can connect up to the grid. We can have electricity if we want. We can have water. Is there road access? There's not always road access going to these lots. It's not a bad thing. You just have to expect it. How long will it take for this area to develop? Sometimes, in a lot of cases, you're going to be paying more for properties that are in areas that are more developed, or there already are the utilities there. There is the road access. If there aren't any of those utilities or road access, how long is the seller anticipating for it to take? And then I'd say multiply that times 5 because it's never what they think it's going to be. And then how many other lots are in this area to develop? This is a huge one, especially when it comes to the resale market. And the reason that I mention this is I've seen some developments open up where they have thousands of lots and they're going for really affordable prices. But at the end of the day, if you need to resell it, it may be very difficult to liquidate it because you have tons of competition. So understanding that is really important. And also here in Belize, number 5 here is really important, is you need to make land improvements to be able to build. So it's not uncommon to have to fill your property. If you're on the coast, a lot of times people end up putting in seawalls to prevent erosion. And to reclaim land, you can reclaim about 66 feet. So you need to understand those costs too. Do you need to fill it? Will you need to build a seawall? Those all cost real money, and you need to know that prior to going in. So you may be able to get a lot for $30,000, but if you need to put 10 grand or 15 grand worth of fill in, maybe it makes more sense to look at one that's already filled. Here, so I pulled up some prices for price per linear foot for beachfront vacant land. So this is undeveloped land. And I'd say the sizes of these properties are a little different, but more or less they're about the same. So when you go up to Basel Jones over here, number 1, you see that price per linear foot. This is for vacant land, undeveloped land, nothing on it. It's about $26.50. When you go to San Roman, which is about 8.5 miles up, it's about $42.85. When you get to Secret Beach, you can see it's about $52.88, and Tres Cocos, which is about $83.33. And this is price per linear foot of beachfront land. So you have the beach and you break it up into linear foot of beachfront land. This is what it costs per linear foot. And then Costa del Sol, which is number 5. That's, I think, probably one of the most popular spots people are buying right now because there's a lot of value over there. But you can see as you start the north part of the island and work your way down towards San Pedro town, you start from being, inexpensive to more expensive. So that is important for you to realize, because once you are looking up north, you don't have the utilities, you don't have the great roads up there, certainly not paved. So it's important to know these sort of numbers and to know where it is you're buying, because it may seem like a really good deal, but maybe it is a little bit further from infrastructure and from town. So number one, this area up here is called Basel Jones to San Roman area, 8.5 miles north. And for a lot of us from the States or from Canada, if you're used to driving distances to get to the grocery store, get to your friend's house, or to go visit family, it may not seem like a lot. Like you say 14 miles, oh, that's not bad. I'll be there in 14 minutes or 15 minutes. The reality is that the road isn't great. So to get from San Pedro town in golf cart to Basel Jones takes about an hour and a half. I'd say maybe a little bit longer than that, 2 hours. So you have to consider that too, is what is the accessibility to these properties. But I'd say Tres Cocos, where you see number 4 over here, that's right after the bridge. This area really has been a hot spot over the last 4 or 5 years. We've seen a tremendous growth and appreciation in Tres Cocos because it's extremely convenient to town. You're just in a great location there, but as a result, you see it is the most expensive. So I have examples here. This is what I was showing you before, but it is of the different properties. And so just put a little bit of pictures with it. So that the more north you are, the less expensive the vacant land will be. But you also have to consider the accessibility there. All right, so now we did price per parcel. This is for inland. So we didn't do it based on linear frontage because in coastal land and beach property, the advantage of the property is that coastal land right there. So here we did inland. And so here are a few examples of the different properties, and I really focused them a little bit more closer to San Pedro. But Secret Beach, I mentioned, this is an area that a lot of people are interested in because they've heard Secret Beach, I'd also caution that there are thousands of parcels there. So while you may be getting in at a good price, remember that there are no utilities and it may be a little bit harder to sell. In addition to that, number 2 over here, Tres Cocos area, there you have a lot. It's 1/10 of an acre for about $99,000, but this does have utilities. And this is going back to what I was saying about this being a really up and coming area. It's like we joke about it being the Beverly Hills of Ambergris Caye. Costa del Sol, number 3, there you have about a 1/4 acre with all utilities and water view for $54,900. Again, I think number 3 here is probably the best value because it is so close to San Pedro. It's right over the lagoon, and then the bay rather, and then you have the road coming down from Secret Beach, and then Altamar, which is 4. It's a little bit south of town. And that's about 200,000. That's in a great location, more commercial space, I would say, but a great location there, which is why you see the price tag is more expensive. And this is just giving you some more of the visualizations to the price per parcel. The prices there, the size of it, but you can see Tres Cocos is the smallest, but it is also the most expensive, primarily because of the location, and it does have all the utility hookups there. So again, just giving you some frame of reference as to what pricing looks like currently on Ambergris Caye. All right, here are some resale considerations, and this is before we jump into some resale opportunities for you. The first is, why is the seller selling? Always important to know that. A lot of times there's expats who come down who have to go back home for some reason, and so that's why they're selling, but don't be afraid to ask that question to the real estate agent that you're working with. Also, know if the property was ever rented or was it lived in full time. I think that is a good indicator of the condition of the appliances, for example, of the utilities there. In addition, is the seller offering financing? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And then also, I mentioned this earlier as we were talking about the single family homes, but understand how much the ongoing fees are going to be. How much is the water? What are the property taxes? How much is electricity? And I am going to focus on electricity for a moment because this is typically the largest monthly expense that people have when they are buying real estate here and they are using an AC. For an example, I had a friend that it's a 3-bed, 3-bath, beachfront, single family home in Tres Cocos, and they kept the AC on. They had central AC. They kept the AC on because they weren't living here full time, but they also didn't want the house to smell like mold or be moldy when they came in every month or every other month. And so their electricity bill was about $1,500 a month US because they were keeping that AC on. So think about it, the larger space you have, especially if you have central air, the more that your electricity is going to cost. But that's really important for you to know. And when was the home built? These are just typical questions that you'd be asking. And when were there any overhauls done? And then, is the furniture included? I do like to add that in because a lot of times it actually is included, which is something a little bit different than if you're buying a single family home in the States for your living purposes. Typically they're not including the furniture when they sell the property. but here typically you do find it, but it is important to ask. So I've highlighted a few deals under $200,000. I had a lot of folks after the last webinar ask me about in that price range, 150 to 200, 250,000. So I've highlighted a couple of them here. If you are interested in any of them, they are all currently on the market. And so I'm happy to send you more information about them afterwards. So here's one. This is a 1-bed, 1-bath in the Grand Bayman Best Western area. So you can see the red pin over here in the bottom part of the screen. So this is town. It's actually where Grand Bayman is, where I used to live. It was probably one of my favorite locations on the island because of the proximity to town. At that point, I didn't have a golf cart. I was walking or riding a bike everywhere. I was able to be in town in 5 minutes. There was a grocery store around the corner. It was just a really, really convenient location to be in. Also, they are high quality buildings. They are built out of concrete, built to hurricane category 4 standards. So it's a really solid building. And I appreciated that. But this is going for about $150,000. There is owner financing here. You will notice, well, sorry, I cut it off a little bit, but this is not directly on the beach, but it's about 3 minutes from the beach, and you're able to get there a 5-minute walk through the beach access. That's right there. And this is a 2nd floor condo, 1-bed, 1-bath, and split ACs. And the owner is offering financing if this is something you would be interested in. And typically when somebody's offering finances, there aren't super specific terms. That typically is something that is negotiated between the buyer and the seller, but it always is good to ask and see what they're thinking. Here is another condo. This is a 2-bed, 1-bath. This is located about 1.5 miles south of town. So where we were before, Grand Bayman is about over here. Grand Bayman was about over here. And so now you're going a little bit further. It's about, I'd say 8-10 minute golf cart ride from town, but this is within a complex of 60 other condos. And there are about 4 condos or villas per building. This one I mentioned, 1st floor, 2-bed, 1-bath. I haven't seen these condos under $200,000 ever, really, or at least in a very, very long time. I know that they did just do a price reduction on this condo. So if it is something that you're interested in, do of course let us know. I have a feeling it'll probably go fairly quickly because it is just so low price, but this one does have water views from the property, and then you're within the complex I mentioned. You can see some drone footage there, some aerial footage. There is a pool there on site, and it's just a very well taken care of and well manicured property. No financing though on this one. Another property that I want to mention is White Sands Cove. This is a brand new listing. This is coming in at $175,000. This is 1-bed, 1-bath, about 550 square feet. And with this property here, you are located within a resort complex. You can live there full time. You can put in their rental program should you choose, but it is a great spot to be. It is also water view, not waterfront, but water view, no financing here. And this is located about 2.5 miles north of town. And when I say north of town, that means north of San Pedro. Over there, this was going for $175,000. And also, I do want to mention, I'm going to just go back for a second. I forgot to mention this before. Sorry about that. As I put their numbers right here in the beginning of the header. If there's anything that's of interest to you and you want more information about it, just jot down this number and then send it over to me in an email, info@Luna Realty Belize. You can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and I'll make sure that you get all of the details for that specific property there. So number 1 is the Best Western Grand Bayman. I do think it's a great opportunity from the rental perspective because it is a branded hotel. It's a solid 3-star property, only Best Western on Ambergris Caye, so great options there for rental. This is the 2-bed, 1-bath. This is number 2, and then it's going for $199,000. And then here is the product it's a 1-bed, 1-bath located at White Sands Cove, and this is option number 3. So if you see anything of interest, feel free to just email me there and I'll be able to get you all those details. All right, here's another one under $200,000. This is located on the Costa del Sol, across the bay over here. And this one is going for $199,900. This is more of a studio type hotel room, but you can see there the view from, this is the 2nd floor option, but you can see the view. It is just absolutely incredible. From 3 sides of the property, from your bed, you can have views of the lagoon, and it just is incredibly a stunning property. And so it's a 4-plex over here. You can do the 1st or the 2nd floor. It's about a 0.5 half mile west of San Pedro. No financing available for here, but they do have water views. Something else that I really like about this property is there's the canal. There's a man-made canal there, and it is incredible for fly fishing. So if you're a fly fisherman, you can just fly fish right off of your dock there, or just even fish generally. and they just about finished this property, just about finished with the infinity pool and the restaurant. I'll be going over there tomorrow, and if anyone is interested in this property, I can certainly send you some video footage from it. All right, so now we're going to jump. Well, let me take a step back. So this is number 4 here. So if you're interested in number 4, feel free to just let me know. All right, we're going to jump to number 5. And these next few are really more geared towards investors, except there is the exception that you don't have to be an investor. You can be somebody who wants to relocate and live here full time. But this is one that I find really unique. There are only a couple over the water bungalows on Ambergris Caye. Actually, it's very hard to get permits to build over the water. So if you're looking for something a little bit different in the marketplace, this is one that I would recommend. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath. It's going for about $350,000. And it's located, here's north, guys. Here's the bridge right over here. It's located like 2-3 minutes right over the bridge. It's in that area that I was mentioning to you before called Tres Cocos. So it's a really popular area, and you can actually access this development completely by golf cart. And you see the little boardwalk over here. You can even drive on here by golf cart. So it takes very little time to get to these over the water bungalows. Something that I really like about this product specifically is that it does have a plunge pool. There are some cute swings that you can swing off of the dock to a private veranda outdoors. And it is a pretty small development. So you don't have tons of people there coming in and out all the time, which I like from that aspect too. It's private and there's nothing else behind it. So it's a very neat property there, 2-bed, 1-bath, going for about $350,000. All right, next one I'm going to mention to you is at Las Terrazas. This is a 3-bed, 2-bath. This one's going for $375,000. This is considered a luxury development, and it typically gets a lot of rankings as being one of the best resorts in San Pedro. This price is quite low for a 3-bed, 2-bath on Ambergris Caye. We do tend to find that their HOA is a little bit more expensive, compared to some of the other properties. However, when you're paying quite a low price tag for it initially, it also means lower stamp tax, but you do have those HOA fees over the years. So it kind of balances out. But I would say that this is a real winner. It does have water view as well. It's not oceanfront, but it does have water view. And the grounds here are just immaculately kept. It's really quite luxurious here. And they have the pool, as you can see there. There's a restaurant on site, bar on site, kayaks, all of that you're able to take advantage of right there on the water and on the property. So this one's about 3 miles north. Apologies that I did not add a map. I'm happy to send that over to you if you'd like to see that. This one's about 3 miles north of San Pedro. Another one I'd like to mention to you, this is actually within the same property of that fourplex that I was showing you before. This is canal front tiny homes. I know a lot of times when people are looking at properties, the tiny home or being eco-conscious is something that's really quite appealing. Here these are located directly on the canal. I went over to the property a couple weeks ago and did see these starting to go up, which is really exciting to see. But this is for a loft style 1-bed, 1-bath, about $240,000. Something that I like about these models is that they are actually built of concrete, and then they'll be finished with wood as more decorative than anything. So it is a very, very solid product. And also, this is great for the person I mentioned before who likes fly fishing or being out there close to water. You do have the water views from your veranda. This is located about half a mile west of San Pedro. And these are a little bit larger than the other condos I was showing you at about 641 square feet. All right, now I'm going to mention to you, let me actually go back. So that was number 7. If you're looking at the tiny homes, canal front tiny homes, number 7. Number 6 is the luxury 3-bed, 2-bath. Number 7, the canal front tiny homes. And now we're going to jump to number 8. So if you're somebody who's looking more for a residential property, these are some options for you. However, do note that they aren't just for residential purposes. You can also put them on Airbnb, put them in the rental market should you choose. This is a 3-bed, 3-bath in that Tres Cocos area. So I was telling you about Tres Cocos before, where it's really like the Beverly Hills of Ambergris Caye. It's close to town. It's easy to access. There are restaurants around and a great little farmer's market over there. So this is really one of the most popular spots to be in. So you will see the prices are more expensive. It's about a mile north of San Pedro. And what's neat about this property is that it also has a guest house. So while the main house is a 3-bed, 3-bath, you do have that guest house there too. So if you want to come rent it out, for example, and you want to stay in the guest house, or perhaps you want a full-time caretaker, which I would recommend, then you can put them in the guest house. So you do have options there too. And there's really beautiful local hardwood finishes and features included in the construction. So a really beautiful house located there. And you can see the big pin right over there. That's where this is located, 3-bed, 3-bath. All right, here's lifestyle property number nine. Again, these can be included in an Airbnb should you choose. However, do note with the single family homes that I'm showing you, they're not included in a resort or development. So you would be the one responsible for the upkeep and whatnot of these homes, or you get a property manager who takes care of that for you. This is probably one of the most affordable homes I've seen, at least new construction homes in San Pedro. It's going for about 400,000. It's a 2-bed, 3-bath, 1,500 square feet. This is an area called Tarpon Bay. So if you follow my cursor over here, San Pedro town, the airstrip, we saw that before. Bridge is right up here. So this is located about 30 minutes, I would say 25, 30 minutes south of San Pedro town. And it's located about a block from the water. So this property over here overlooks an area called Tarpon Bay. It's a really beautiful spot. You do have water views there, the sunset, not Caribbean necessarily, but if you're somebody who's a little bit more sensitive to the seagrass, we'll say, this could be a really great option for you because you don't get seagrass there in the lagoon or on the bay side. So something for you to consider. This one does not have any financing, but it's probably one of the lowest that I've seen in terms of a single family house, like close to town. The other option is number 10, another lifestyle property for you here. This is a 2-bed, 1-bath. It's located fairly far north, about 12 miles north of town. So it is going to take about an hour and a half to get into town from the property. However, the nice thing is that the seller is including a Yamaha ATV. So it'll be a little bit quicker than if you just had a regular golf cart going up and down. I do want to point out that this is located about 5 blocks from the beach. The property does not include all of this land in the front. It is this parcel specifically here where there is the house. It is connected up to the grid, except I do like that they have a generator and they do have solar panels, which are also included. So you are connected to the grid, but if for some reason you don't want to use it or you want to connect up to solar panels, you are able to do that. And then what's also neat about this property is it's very well landscaped and they do have fruit trees already growing. So you might have seen, well, I'll mention that in a second, but what's neat is that they do already have the fruit trees growing. And actually, when you get up north a little bit more, you do tend to find that the land is a little bit more fertile for growing. I'm located about 3.5 miles north of the bridge, and we have a lot of sand over here. But once you start to get a little bit further north, you do tend to find that there's more black soil there. So it is a little bit easier to grow things. And then that's number 10. So that would be for lifestyle property. Again, you can put any of these as an Airbnb, but these are all single standing homes. And this is a little bit less than the home we saw at Tarpon Bay. And the primary reason because it's further north. So it takes a little bit more time for you to get there, but it is connected to the grid. And last but not least, I'm going to include for you a commercial business. This one is a sports bar. Sunset Sports Bar, one of my favorite places to go. They're really incredible views of the sunset right over there, as the name would indicate. Also have a bunch of TVs for sports games. They opened up in 2017 and are selling for about 1.5 million. So if you or a group of friends are looking to invest in something that's already operating, running up and operating on Ambergris Caye, I would recommend this being a place that you consider. And you can see that big pin right over there here. This is located in that area I mentioned before, Tres Cocos. So you have the nice single family homes there. You have some of the more high-end resorts in this area. So you do have a great clientele base just surrounding you right here. But it is just a couple of minutes over the bridge to get to this location. So this is number 11, a commercial business up and operating today. You can go to their Facebook. You can read reviews if this is something that you are interested in learning more about. All right, and then just a couple more slides for you here. I know we're going almost close to the hour and I want to have some time for Q&A, but a few more considerations for you. I'm going to put together a whole list of these considerations, and in the email I send you can download them if you choose. But these are always just good questions to ask yourself: is has the developer built in Belize before, and have they successfully built in Belize? Because I tend to see a lot of times people are coming down to the country because they've been successful in their home countries with development, but it is a bit of a different world here. So you want to make sure that they have the experience in order to get it done and understand how the project is getting funded. Are they relying on your funds in order to get the project done? That's not ideal. You do want to make sure that they have money of their own to be putting into this, so that there's no delays with the project. And then also understand who their local contractor is. It is mandatory that there is a local contractor here, and somebody who understands the building process and procedures here in the country. So ask to see what else that contractor has built on Ambergris Caye. I know contractors right now are extremely busy because there's just a ton of construction that's happening. So you're able to see a little bit more of what they've done in the past. And then also, you know, it's just as simple as going to Google and typing in the developer's name or the developer's company and poke around a little bit. I know for me, I love using Google as that sort of search engine and being able to do a little bit more due diligence, because they'll tell you what they want you to what they want to tell you, but there may be a little bit more for you to find out. So just do a little bit of a Google search and see what's out there. All right, so we're going to be having a handful more Belize briefs. These are going to be Zoom sessions just like this that are going to be covering more about the market. We have two different types of sessions. We're going to do a Belize marketplace, which is similar to this one, where I'll go through opportunities, and then we'll have an education series or an educational series. So with these, we're going to talk about things that you should know or will want to know if you are planning to buy real estate in Belize, or you want to live in the country or come down here for a period of time. So our next marketplace is going to be covering condos and villas within Belize as a whole. That'll be on Saturday, October 8th. And then we're going to do our next education series, which is going to be a Belize residency overview. We are bringing in a Belizean attorney to go through that process with you. That's going to be on Tuesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to be adding more as I get more insight from you all about what it is that you're looking for. But I am keeping the website updated. If you go to lunarealtybelize.com/webinars, you'll see on there a list of all of the upcoming webinars with a link to register and get registered, so you get those reminders that they're coming up. But we will continue to add more to as we hear feedback about what it is people are looking for. So it'll be two different paths, really. One will be the marketplace, then the other will be the education series to fill you in on what you need to know. All right, now quick poll before we open up the floor to questions and answers, and we're going to be launching it now, is when are you looking to purchase? And the reason that I ask this is because when the opportunities become available on the island, and it's like real estate anywhere, the deals that are well priced are going to go fast. So if you're not looking for another year or 2 or 3, you know, it's good to familiarize yourself with what's out there, but don't expect prices to be the same. Don't expect inventory to be the same. And so it's just good to know that. But I'm going to read the answers out loud just so that you see them there. When are you looking to purchase? Within the next 30 days, 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 months to 1 year, or over 1 year. And I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, perfect. Ending that. So it looks like a lot of folks are looking a little bit further into the future. Awesome. It's always important to be doing your due diligence, understanding what is available, and then also knowing what numbers look like, because we've only seen numbers continue to increase. So, you know, we always say the best time to buy real estate is now, but of course, yeah, everyone's on their time frame too. So good for you to be doing your research there, certainly. And now at that point, we will be opening the floor to a Q&A. And feel free to answer or ask questions there, and we'll get those answered live for you. Oh, hey there. I saw some more folks joining from Calgary, Colorado. JR, awesome. I'm guessing you're in Ohio. All right, Susan is asking, are pets allowed in the condo properties? Really great question, Susan. It really just depends on which condo property. I know at Grand Bayman, they do allow pets. And then there are a few other properties, Royal Palms, that we showed before, and I can go back to that too. So it's just a little bit easier to visualize as we talk about it. So this one here, they do allow pets at Grand Bayman. And I guess it depends on what pets, but typically people mean dogs and cats. And yes, they do. I know here at Royal Palm, they also allow pets. And I'm pretty sure at this one, I have to double check White Sands, but not all places do. And so it is good that you ask that question, especially if you are planning on bringing your furry friend down with you. Yeah, Susan wants to bring her 2 cats. Awesome. Yep, that's great. Totally understand that. And that can be another session too, if anyone wants to learn about how to bring their pets down, and we can cover that sort of information. So I'm seeing some folks here are asking to get copies of the slides. We can certainly do that. Karen is saying, how difficult is it to get a permit to remodel once you purchase, like move walls, add additional baths? So it depends. If you're in a condo, you typically have to go through the condo association for that. In Belize, you don't necessarily need permits for everything. Some things you do, like if you want to build a fence, for example, you need a permit. But other things you don't need a permit for. So you're just able to do those as long as you have the right contractor in place. And if you do need a permit, typically it takes about a month or 2 to get that permit. It's not difficult to do necessarily. You know, I haven't heard anybody really getting denied doing any remodeling unless it was just so completely outlandish. You also have to respect the setbacks, making sure that you're not building over the setbacks, which are important. But as long as you're doing that, it typically just takes about a month or 2. All right, I see we don't really have that many questions here today. I know we covered a lot and went through a lot of property information. Feel free to send over details or whatnot about what it is that you're looking for so that we can make sure we're sending you information that is relevant to you. I'd say best email address, you saw it there on the screen, is info@lunarealtybelize.com. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing more of these sessions and webinars to just make sure you're educated and have all the info that you need prior to owning real estate here in the country. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic Thursday, and I'll chat with you soon. Bye.